topics. So next up, we have some 2056 parents, and they are going to be discussing what to expect on your first year of robotics. So I would like to introduce Jeff Beatty and Leba Lush. Welcome.
Thank you, Samantha. And I'll wait for Luba to pop on here. So let me see where Luba is. Well, I'm gonna get started. Well, I see something happening.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Luba.
Hi there, Jeff. How are you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me again this year. Last year, Luba and I did this little parent panel, and the point that we're trying to give parents is what to expect in a normal year. And obviously last year didn't turn out to be quite normal, and very likely this isn't going to be a normal year either. But during the course of a normal year, what to expect for parents. We're coming at it from the 2056 perspective, but there should be some common themes that other parents that might be watching might be able to get from this for other teams as well, because we're all part of the first family, and we're all going to have very similar outcomes. I just got to adjust this because my head is gigantic. Make sure that it fits in the screen. There we go. So I'm gonna let Luba do a quick self-introduction in terms of her background and her kids' involvement and such. So go ahead, Luba, just real quick. Who are you? Where do you come from? What do you do? And how are your kids involved?
Thanks, Jeff. So I have two boys at Orchard Park now. My oldest is going into grade 11, or is in grade 11, and has been on the robotics team since grade 9. He likes to help out with building the gameplay area, as well as during the competitions he was involved in taking video and other such things like that. My younger one is just starting in grade 9 and was hoping to join the robotics team this year. So we're just trying to figure out how that's all happening, and very excited to see how things are going to be unfolding.
It's going to be an interesting year, to say the least. So real quick, my background, I have really no technical background. So I'm not a robotics person. I'm not a tech person at all. Luba, you're in architecture and engineering, so you've got some technical background.
That's right.
But I own a greenhouse and garden center, so I grow flowers for a living. My kid is behind the scenes there. You'll see her at the top of my stepdaughter, Emily, is kind of running the show in the background. And she's rolling her eyes right now because I'm calling her out. But my involvement has just been through my kid and seeing where these kids end up. And I think that's the most impressive part, is watching the trajectory that being involved with the robotics team will put your kid on. They don't have to have a background in technology at all. You don't have to have a background in technology at all, but being a part of this team and being a part of STEM education and the STEM movement really will put them on a trajectory for the moon, for lack of a better term. They just end up going in directions that you never expected, and whether or not they end up in the technology field or not, we have some graduates from our team that have gone on to work at places like Tesla and Google. We've also had members of our team that have gone on to become involved in media or involved in photography and other more arts-aligned directions. But being a part of something like this team or other teams throughout the FRC universe is really going to what we're going to do. And I may kind of cut out from time to time. It's telling me that my internet connection may be a little unstable, which through kind of the four, what I call the 4 seasons within the season. So the preseason, the build season, the competition season, and the postseason. We'll talk about what to expect if you're a first-year parent. So if you're coming at this fresh and you're just joining as a parent of a student who's just getting involved with robotics, we'll talk about those 4 seasons. We'll go through some terminology, and we'll try to bring you a little bit of an update as to what to expect for the 2020-21 season. And of course, there'll be more on that tomorrow. John Hobbins from First Robotics will be giving an update on the FRC season. So come back tomorrow and get that update as well. So where I'd like to start is what I call the preseason. Now, the preseason, I classify the preseason as kind of the hardest part for a first-year student, first-year parent. What ends up happening is you come in, and this again is the 2056 experience. So other teams may differ, but what you see is kids coming into the FRC arena, and they don't necessarily have a defined role quite yet. And there's a lag time. So school starts in September, and the FRC season doesn't start until January. So there's this gap in between where your kid is part of a team that is still coming off of last year's season, and the roles have not yet been defined. So it's a little bit of a trek. I'd say arguably it's the toughest part of the entire season for new team members because they're trying to find their place within the team. Usually you'll see that last year's team members are going to be still heavily involved with last year's robot, last year's match, and it will give you some insight as to what the next season will have in store, but it's really only a glimpse. Lubo, what else do you think we should share about the preseason?
I think for the preseason, going back to my first season with the team, I think it's important for both the students and the parents to ask a lot of questions, especially for those coming into the program for their first time. There's so much information that comes out through different channels even, that it's important to ask the questions, to be comfortable with that, so that can really maximize your experience with your team. And so you can be a part of it and maybe find out where you best fit in with the program.
For sure. For sure. And I know, I remember you came on last year, the year before?
2 years ago.
How long have you been a parent now?
2 years. This is my 3rd year.
2 years ago. See,
yeah.
2020
so
doesn't,
fast.
It's like time kind of stood still for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So you lose track. I don't even know what day it is. I think it's
the 3rd of October.
is the day that it is. That's all that I know. The 3rd of, no, yeah, sure. I'll trust you because I've lost track of time. But I know that when you joined on as a parent, you did just that. You asked a lot of questions, and that's really, really key. There's no such thing as a bad question. Just keep asking, get involved. Some of the problems that you could run into with your student is what I would classify as a possible loss of interest, because they're still trying to figure out how they're going to fit into the team. So you might get through September, October, and because they're not really in a particular role as of yet, as a new student, they might be kind of feeling a loss of confidence that, you know, do I really belong? Am I really part of something here? I see everybody else gelling. I'm not really part of it. The advice that I would offer, and I'm sure Luby, you do the same, keep your kid engaged. Tell them to stay with it. This is, as I said, probably the toughest part of the season to go through. And you may need a little extra support as a parent to keep them engaged. You know, this is the pre-season. It's the part before we get into some of the good stuff. There are other activities typically taking place. So Luba, I don't know if you've got the list there of some of the things that we do at 2056.
The list for the events, or what the kids can take part in?
The off season, yeah, our off season. In the preseason, some of the things that we do.
Right. So in the preseason,
I've totally put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's okay. So there's a lot, you know, just going through the past year, what had happened, getting our practice space ready. One of the things that my son had taken part in his first year was inventory of the materials that were there. So taking inventory and what's already there in preparation, so that there can be a list of what will potentially be needed once the new game is released in January. So basically, one of the things that I was more familiar with, because my son took part in it, was what's available, organization of space, and how to move forward with that kind of thing, you know, keeping things tidy, you know, preparing for fundraising, you know, getting some funding from local businesses. So there's a lot of
very important
preparation type of things that our team would do. Some of the fundraising was the clothes donation, and the medals.
Right.
Yeah, that was a big one last year.
The recycle day.
Right, the recycle day.
Yeah. So our team does a big recycle drive. We take used electronics, metal, all those manner of things. And last year we had, I think it was a 24-foot cube truck plus 3 or 4 pickup trucks with trailers, just tons and tons of scrap metal, scrap electronics that we diverted out of landfill and put into recycling programs. And there's a little bit of a fundraising element to that as well. So that's a great thing.
I think that it's important to mention.
Luba talks about, yes.
Oh, I think it's important to mention for days like that, even though the goal is fundraising and diverting waste, I think that it's important for parents and students alike to join these kind of days at the school or wherever their practice space is. It's a great way to learn more about the program and meet other parents and become comfortable with them, so that you can ask those questions that might not be comfortable otherwise. And it's just a good social setting where you're not actually building or competing. It's a light type of event.
Yeah, and it's something that you can kind of come and go from. There's not like a hard cap of how much time you have to spend on these things, but it is good for parents to come in. You can spend a half hour, an hour, and participate in the fundraising projects or some of these other events that your team might hold that are not as technical, but it allows you to get a comfort with some of the other parents, get to know some names, and coming back to that, asking questions. One thing that I wanted to throw in there is it's really important that you stay in the know, because kids, teenagers, you're talking about grade 9s, typically not the best communicators, I would say. So you know, try to keep up on the side, just in case they're not you know, being as up to the minute in their information as you'd like them to be. You might need to kind of help them through that a little bit. Also wanted to make note of off-season events. Our team typically participates in the Stemley Cup. It's right in our neck of the woods in Hamilton. And this is one of the last off-season events. So it's an event that your team may be going to where it's last year's game, it's last year's team, by and large. There might be some new people added into the mix. But it is a really good demonstration of what the next season should look like. Of course, keeping in mind, we're talking about a typical year, and 2020, 2021, probably not going to be so typical, but hopefully there'll be some normalcy, you know, that we'll be able to get back to real soon. Anything else we want to throw in there for the preseason, Luba?
I think that you've pretty much covered all of it, most of it. I think, like you said, keeping in the loop as much as you can with what's happening is key to a good season.
Right. And engaged parents are going to mean engaged students, and engaged students really is going to be good for the team as a whole. Let's jump towards build season now. So build season kicks off in January. This is when the new game is released. It's done worldwide. It's kind of an event. Some are watching and going, yeah, kickoff, that's like the best part.
It's very exciting.
If you're a new parent, it's very exciting. It's kind of like, I don't know, the ball drop on New Year's Eve, right? It's kind of you're sitting around the monitor waiting for the big reveal as the new game comes out. You know, this year probably going to be a little different. There's some talk that there may be some familiar elements to our 2021 game, meaning that a lot of it will likely be a carryover from last year because the season didn't fully function. But in a typical year, you're gathered in a room. There's a big release. It's done worldwide through streaming, and the technical data is all released. And so new game, new robots, new designs, new rules. And we start really at the beginning of January for the 2021 season, or whatever season that we're in. Some advice that I would give to parents for your kids: have your kids shadow an older team member or returning team member. The best way to be part of the team is to just get in there and do it. Do anything. Keeping in mind that not all kids are actually going to touch a robot. Some of them will end up filling other roles, and those roles are just as important, and in some cases perhaps more important than actually building a robot or running a robot or anything like that. Having your kids show eagerness and adaptability in their first year, especially in some of those early months, the mentors and the older members of the team, they're going to take notice. And you know, when they start talking about your kid or other kids and saying, you know, I noticed that this particular student was really keen and really interested. Those students are probably going to be given some roles to grow in their role and grow in their skill set and come under the wing of a mentor or another team member. The worst thing that a kid can do is just, you know, pick up their phone, stare at their phone, and play on Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever in the corner and not be seen, not be doing anything. Those are the kids that are probably not going to have the fullest experience. So we want to have parents remind to encourage their kids to really push a little bit beyond their boundary, their comfort level, and follow the older team members, follow the mentors, ask to do something, do anything, kind of be like a Marine, be the first in and the last out, and you'll have a more fulsome, your child will have, I think, a more fulsome experience during the build season.
One of the other things
what else do you want to add?
I wanted to mention, sometimes coming into the program in grade 9, it can be a little bit daunting, not knowing the older kids, not knowing all of the terminology that's used, not having the confidence to even ask those questions. So even having, encouraging your student, if they don't have questions or aren't confident enough to ask them, just stay nearby and listen. I think listening can be just a great way of showing how much you want to be a part of things. If you're not confident enough to ask those questions, someone might pull that student under their wing and guide them along and give them that confidence. but it's important to stay close
Mm-hmm.
regardless of their confidence level, whether they're outgoing and able to ask all their questions, or whether they've got reservations about, should I ask this question or should I just not?
Right. So having good dialogue with your child and knowing when they're feeling maybe a little bit shy and a little bit uncertain, and helping them through their process of being able to ask these questions, or maybe they're asking the questions to you and you're kind of going off to another parent and kind of behind the scenes, getting some intel, getting some information, some background, and then bringing that back to your child and helping them feel a little more reassured. That's kind of what you're thinking there?
That's right, yeah. Just having them be involved, whether they're asking other people questions, whether they're listening to find the answer they're looking for if they can't ask it themselves for whatever reason. But yeah, just to be close.
Hey guys, sorry,
Yes.
I'm just
in the background, because yeah, go ahead, Ian.
sorry. So we have a question from chat, and it says that there are a lot of fun and
Awesome.
competitive. Yeah,
Hey, somebody's watching. That's awesome.
Yeah, so there are a lot of fun and competitive challenges for FRC teams to tackle this fall. And how do you see parents assisting with these activities?
Whew. Well, gosh, it'll be easier to answer the question once we know the full details of what the season's going to look like.
Right.
I think
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the appeal of any particular season is always the in-person interactions when you're at the school and you're in the lab and you're building or you're machining parts and all of that stuff that is normally done in person. Anytime you switch to a virtual reality kind of situation, you lose some of those elements. So it's really doubling down on getting through the season, participating virtually, helping to assist your student in those ways, motivationally perhaps, because I think it's going to be a challenge for a number of team members. And I'm not speaking for 2056, I think in general for the whole FIRST robotics movement, keeping things motivated, keeping things engaged, and keeping the whole season moving forward. Luba, what do you think?
I think that's all a lot of what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Just being aware of what's happening.
I'm sorry.
I think just staying aware of what's happening and letting your child know that maybe you don't have all the answers, that they don't have all the answers, but that it's, trying to just have conversations to get that information. Sometimes just that dialogue of, them coming to you and I don't know either, let's ask somebody. Sometimes that gives the support to them as well. Mm-hmm. Just knowing that not everybody has all the answers.
Right, and I think alluding to how important it is to keep in the loop and to keep engaged in the background as a parent, having good dialogue and keeping up on things, that's important in a regular, normal year. And I would say even more important, really to double down on that in this setting when we're doing everything virtually. In past years, I would suggest that parents don't just drop your kid off at school and then come pick them up when you think everything's over. Go into the lab, spend a few minutes in there, see what the kids are doing, see what is happening there, and be involved in even in a small way so that you know the context in which your kid is operating. When you see some of the other parents in there, you see the fields, you see some of the design work that they're doing. And that's in a normal year, but in this year in particular, it's really popping in and seeing what they're doing with Zoom calls, or making sure that you really read those emails and the reminds that comes through the Remind app. it's going to be even more critical and more crucial.
Yes, I think staying on top of all those remind app messages is very good. Yeah.
Awesome. I think, so the build season, just to go back to that, again, not knowing fully what it's going to look like for 2021. In a typical year, we're starting with the design, and that starts on the very first day of launch, just to go back to the launch in January, where we start having conversations about design, and there's a brainstorming session that takes place, and some creativity that's flowing in the design. Then we start assembling parts and constructing parts, and then putting the bot together and getting into practice. Now, for 2056, we keep things kind of close. I'd say we encourage parents to participate, but maybe do so somewhat quietly when we're out in public, because we do like to do our big reveal at our first event when we get there. So I don't want to call it a shroud of secrecy, but maybe that's one of the terms that we would use, and just keep that in the back of your head, that when you're out there, we want you to be engaged and we want you to be interested, but until the bot comes out at the first competition, we want to just do so just quietly. Okay.
I think that's very important. It makes for a very exciting season.
From there, yes, well, and nothing like a little bit of anticipation and suspense to keep the viewers really engaged and interested.
I think that helps draw out some more parents too.
Yes. And one thing that our team does is during build season, often there's a lot of kids that are at the school, and they are they're helping, they're building, they're practicing, whatever. So we do team dinners, and the parents sign up to bring a dinner on a particular night. That's a really, really great way to get involved and engaged as a parent, because the kids get tired of eating pizza all the time. So, go in there and sign up for a dinner or two, do something fun and interesting, and you can actually develop a reputation amongst the team members very, very quickly based on the meal that you bring for them. You could be known as, that cool parent that brought homemade chicken shawarma or something like that, as opposed to a parent that brought another darn pizza. So a fun thing that you can do if you're a 2056 team member, or however other teams are doing it, I'm not sure. But maybe there's something that, if you're watching from another team, there might be a little tidbit that I've just given you that can help with some team building on your end as well. So let's move on to the competition season. Now this is where the real excitement for some really comes in. The first competitions typically start in March. Other teams may start a little earlier than that. Some like to jump in and kind of be first out of the gate with their robot and their design and their competition. Then they want to get in there and start competing right away. Others, like our team, we wait a little bit longer. In this time, a fun thing to do is to go online, and even if we're not competing until, say, March, and other teams are starting to compete in February or earlier, go on and start to watch other teams compete at the matches, and get a sense of how the game works, especially if you're a first-year parent and the whole thing is just completely confusing to you. Going in and watching a few other competitions in places like New Hampshire, some of the other American jurisdictions, or some of the Canadian districts as well. It'll really help you to get a better sense of what the game will look like when we as our competing. The kids are gonna start to have rules defined by the mentors. And I just have to reaffirm that not every kid is gonna touch a robot, but all roles on the team are, I would say, nearly equally important, because you can have a terrific drive team, but if you are really soft on your scouting, that's gonna hurt you a little bit. If you're unable to do the video recording, I know, Olivia, you were talking about Gordon involved in recording the matches.
Right.
That's actually a really, really critical part of the overall package when they're sitting down and they're doing their scouting and they're doing their data collection to choose alliances. And we'll get into some of the terminology a little later on. If you're just joining us and you're thinking, what is a drive team? What is an alliance? Or scouts?
Actually, I was going to say that it's important, I think it's important to watch those few events before your team actually goes into one, because you pick up a lot of the terminology, and before you head into your own events, competition events, you can already start to know what the chairman's award is or what the scouting involves. So it's a good it's a good precursor to what your own team is going to go through.
Yes, and know also, just to build on that, Luba, for parents watching, know also that we've all started at the beginning where we didn't know any of the terminology and we all felt really dumb.
Yes.
I'm the parent of a grade 12 student. She's in her final year and I'm still learning terminology. There's still things where I go, okay, what did they just say? What is that? It can be a little complex at times, but feel assured in the fact that we've all started there. Some of us are still there. We still don't know what's going on. We're just kind of faking our way through it.
And because it's ever changing, it's because it's changing all the time.
Right?
Yeah, it's changing all the time. So it's important to know that there's always going to be something new coming up that we need to pick up.
Exactly. Just when you think you figured it out, the game changes, and then it's like, oh, that's not how we used to do it. But that's as Michael was saying in the previous session, change is a universal constant. So things keep changing, and that's just part of it. Most importantly, have fun with it. If you are not really, how do I say it? It's kind of a trope to say, have fun with it. But really, really go in there and think of it almost like it's a sports league, because essentially it is. I mean, there's team uniforms and lots of chanting and shouting and music playing and all that good stuff. Go to, gosh. I remember going to my first events. My kid was actually only in grade 7, so she kind of got an early introduction. She was on a team at a elementary school, so they would go and watch 2056 compete. So here I am, the parent of a grade 7, and going into Waterloo University and seeing the competition there for the first time. And I was completely blown away and probably hooked at that moment. And I think as soon as you have the opportunity to go to a real event, go live, and see it and experience it in its totality, that's the real game changer, I think. Probably not going to happen so much in 2021. So you may just have to settle for the virtual online versions. But if we get to a point where we're able to attend as crowds again, and it might be 2021 or later on, do that. Go to as many competitions as you can. And a tip that I'd give to parents, if you're at all able to do it, book a hotel room, make a little mini vacation around one of the comps or two of the comps. If you can get down to Detroit and spend a weekend in Detroit, bring your spouse, bring the other kids, and make a big deal out of it. Or if you just want a night away in Mississauga, you can do that too. Nothing wrong with that. But I think it takes some of the pressure off if you can schedule some kind of a little a mini event for your family around it. It helps to make things go nice and smoothly. Liva, what do you think?
I agree. I stayed overnight for the Detroit trip 2 years ago, since we didn't have anything last year. And I think it was a great experience. The kids bond with spending so much time together. The parents do as well. It's just, it's a really great setting to be with the team for so long and really be immersed in everything.
Yeah, especially Detroit and Worlds. I mean, the other world, the half world is in Houston. Again, whether or not that happens this year, I don't know. But there's so much to see and do outside of the competitions. You really get a full scale of what the First Robotics movement is about. Wander around, go downstairs, see all of the sponsors that are there. And these are top tech companies from around the world that are attending these events. And they're doing so with the intent of possibly recruiting some of these team members to come and join their companies. There's also going to be post-secondary education institutions that are there, colleges, universities. They're set up. They're trying to recruit these kids to come to their colleges and universities. There's going to be subsidies available. There's going to be bursaries, scholarships, all of that good stuff. So take the time during the competition season to wander around and also go into the pits, see what other teams are doing, interact, collect buttons and things like that. The kids love to show off a little bit of what they're doing, and you only really get the true feel for it when you get up out of your seat and wander around.
I think that's very important to say, because it's very inspiring to see what the other teams are doing as a parent or as a student. I know that for Gordon, he really liked walking through to see what everyone else was up to.
And ask questions. Ask questions. Very important. Constantly ask questions. Because like I said, if you don't ask, you don't know. Did I say that? I meant to say that. So when we get to the end, and we're talking about Detroit as the end of the season, the Worlds. After that, the season continues on a little bit longer in what I call the postseason. Often in the postseason, it's a lot like the preseason in that we're doing some outreach. So the kids might be going out and demonstrating their robots to some of the sponsors, to some of the community groups. They'll also be going to elementary schools and talking to elementary school-age children and showing off the robot and maybe assisting with some of the robotics programs that are taking place in their schools. They kind of do this in both the preseason and the postseason, and it actually occurs often during the regular season as well. It's just not as much time available often in the competition season or the build season as opposed to preseason and postseason. So the kids are going to be doing that. Fundraising will generally resume or continue. There's sometimes there'll be a banquet or an awards gala. That's what our team does typically in May. And those are all things that parents really need to continue to be a part of. So when the competition season's finished, don't disappear. Don't slink away. You have to keep with it, because the postseason and the preseason events are just as important for the team and still need the energy from both your student and from yourself, to help out and to volunteer for some of these things. There's often some post-season events that are held. There's one that our team often attends in Indianapolis called the Indiana Robotics Invitational. There's also often an event at the C&E, and it will be a really fun, laid-back opportunity for the kids to compete, but the pressure's not on like it would be at a district event or at a Worlds event, because it's mostly just for bragging rights as opposed to, you know, some big blue banner. And they're a lot of fun for the kids. They're also fun for the parents because the pressure's off, and you can go and be a little more social and get to know some of the parents, especially if you're a first-year parent and your kid's going to be in this for the long haul. Getting in and getting to know some of the other parents in your first year is going to be helpful for subsequent years after that. Make sure that you encourage your kids to attend. Make sure that you attend yourself, and ask questions. That's really important. And keep note, the mentors and the other senior team members, they're going to be watching, whether or not they're doing it on purpose or not, but they're doing it inadvertently. They're going to be taking note of who shows up and who's participating in the off-season events, and it's formative. It's important because they do notice those things, and those kids that are participating in the postseason, they may have a leg up when it comes to the following season. We start the whole cycle over again. It's always good to be noticed in that regard. Luba?
Yes, I think that's important. You know, the mentors will know, you know, who's pulling their weight in what areas, and they might say, you know, oh, this person was really good at helping to build the practice space. You know, let's call Gordon over and have him measure this and cut that, or, you know, this person was really good at wiring before. They were really interested, so let's bring this person on and show them how we would wire this. So keeping all that in mind is very important.
Yeah, and you see, you see in the postseason, impromptu opportunities arise where suddenly some of the kids may have graduated, they may have moved on, and they may not be able to participate. And suddenly there might be a little hole here and a little hole there that needs to be filled. So, you know, a mentor, a senior team member might say, hey, you know, we lost so-and-so, but Gordon's available or Emily's available. So, hey, come on over and see if you can fill this role. And some opportunities may arise that are unexpected and can be really, really great for your kid, just to get that experience and build some confidence and some skill set and some capacity in them. Kind of think of it like an audition, like they're auditioning for the role for next year.
Right. You know, showing their interest where they may be interested, especially for kids who don't have a background in technology. Because I know Gordon didn't really have a background in technology. He was more of an athletic kid going into this. So when he said to me that he wanted to be a part of the robotics team, it was a very big surprise. So when he went in, he wasn't really sure where he was going to fit in. So he cleaned up and he helped with taking inventory and moving things around. So, and then after a while, then he started realizing that he likes to build the practice space, get into a little bit of wiring, asking questions. And I think that if you're not sure where you want to belong, try and kind of try out different things.
Yeah, for sure. And the more different experiences your kids can get in different roles, the better for them, and ultimately the better for the team. I remember being incredibly proud of my kid because she was building the bumpers. I thought that was fantastic. You're building bumpers, yay! And now she's actually running this conference. So that's some huge growth that takes place from bumper builder to conference showrunner. And it can happen to any kid. You never know who's going to be next, because the kids they're cycling through all the time. It's only a 4-year, a 5-year maybe stint for them before they move on to post-secondary education. So
It's not very long.
they may not be in a particular, it's not very long, and they might not be in a particular role now, but it doesn't take long for kids to cycle through, and before they know it, they're now the senior team members and in these true leadership roles. And what a great experience that the kids are getting in some very adult situations where they're having to manage people and manage their time and learn new skills and put things together in such a fantastic way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I wanted to try to on some terminology. We've got a few minutes left. And Luba, I don't know if you got that sheet that I sent you with the terminology on it?
I do, yes, I have that right here. So there are
excellent.
So there are quite a few
you
terms.
Go first.
Okay. You know, having the first year that coming into the program, there was a lot of terms that were coming up that I wasn't aware of. I think the most important one that I'd like to start with is gracious professionalism. I think that's something that is repeated all the time. It is pretty obvious when you hear what it is, just the words. But as we have defined here, I'll just read exactly as it is. It's a way of doing things that encourages high quality work, emphasizes the value of others, and respects individuals in the community. With gracious professionalism, fierce competition, and mutual gain are not separate notions. So treating everybody with respect, hearing their ideas, giving value to what other teams are doing is something that's very important in the whole world of FIRST robotics, and that's carried through every competition, that's carried through the practice time, that really is held in high regard through everything that's done. Would you agree, Jeff?
It's the notion of they have another term very similar that's used a lot called collaboration. Meaning that you're collaborating and competing at the same time. The way that that the FIRST program works is that the competitions, you're always on a 3-person alliance. So you will be working with a team for one match, but then a couple of matches down the road, you might be competing against them, and then an hour later, you're collaborating with them.
You're right back with them
this
again.
Constant yin yang of exactly, you're competing against them and then you're working with them. So you always have to be gracious and professional in your demeanor. You're always trying to raise up the standards and raise up the level of competition, and do so in a respectful manner, because you never know who you're going to be working both against and with. And you want to always have treated your competition in a way that is going to leave them wanting to work with you in the future, because you never want to burn any bridges in the FIRST robotics program. And I think that that is part of what gracious professionalism really is.
Always keep those alliances tight, because you never know when you're going to need them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And every once in a while, it very rarely happens, but you do hear rumors. I think it's human nature that rumors spread about, oh gosh, this team didn't treat this other team very well. It's, as I said, very, very rare. But when those things happen, it really is kind of frowned upon. You go, gosh, that's not what GP, as we like to call it, GP is about. And we all want the tide to rise, all boats together. So that's a good one to start with. I'll jump back to actually, we'll just do it in reverse order there, Luba.
Okay.
So I talked about alliances really quickly. Alliances are how you're competing, the competition structure. So it's 3 teams against 3 teams. They're chosen at random. in the beginning, and then as teams accumulate points, they're able to rank higher, and then they use those ranking points to actually choose the teams that they want to participate with. And that is where the scouting comes in. So Luba, tell us real quick about scouting.
So scouting is the team members who are collecting the data as the gameplay is going on. They'll collect, sometimes teams collect it manually on paper. Some have provided or produced apps so that they can more quickly collect the data and then analyze the data of different games that are going on. So for their own team and for the opponent teams. So this data is used for when we're selecting alliance members for the competitions on, you know, we might need a team that's stronger in one area because maybe we lack in that area, so we need another team to fill that area for us. So that helps strategically build a strong alliance to get us further in the game. It's very important to have students.
And some teams, yes. Oh, yes. I walked right into the middle of what you're saying there, but it is so important, and it can't be understated how important scouting is. I'll share a quick anecdotal story. Detroit, 2019, I'm sitting with another parent, and beside us was a team member from a different team, and we just chatted with her, and she was saying how their team really focuses on scouting, and maybe even more so than some of the other components of their robot. And we sat with her, and she was just making notes and yada, 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 sitting in amongst us. Well, what do you know? That team went on, and I think that they kicked our butts because they had been sitting amongst us collecting data on us. And that doesn't always happen for our team.
That's some top secret spyware.
That was a year that was a little bit tough, but yeah. So, but they were very open about it. Yes, we're here. We're collecting data on you. We thought, we didn't really think anything of it, I suppose, at the time. But in retrospect, we look back and go, wow, that's pretty bold. And our team does a lot of scouting. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But it's so critical, and it can really make or break a team if you are not doing enough scouting, you're not doing your scouting correctly, you don't place an emphasis on that. When you get to a little bit later on, it's both important, even if you're not a team that is, you're collecting data on other teams that you want to pick, but you're also collecting data that for teams that you will know what to present to other teams so that they will pick you. So part of it is knowing the strengths of some of the other teams so that you can come to them and say, gosh, we noticed that your team seems to behave in this manner, and you're using these strategies. And we think we can augment that with some of our skill sets. So you're almost, for some of the other teams out there watching, the data collection is a two-way street, because you're also trying to, you're auditioning and in hopes of being picked up by another alliance. Okay, we'll move on, because I think we're down to about 7 minutes left. I'll talk about the chairman's award and the chairman's team that puts together the presentation. Essentially, it's a written essay and usually an accompanying video that's going to showcase the team's outreach and impact on the community and the world. And there's an award that's given for this that in some cases is as important as actually winning a district event, and in some cases it can be your ticket to getting to Worlds. So you'll see a team that, part of the team that will probably never actually touch the robot, and they may be very heavily involved in some of the creative aspects. So they might be doing videography, and they might be doing essay writing and things of that nature, graphic design and whatnot. And it kind of helps to showcase that there are students that will be needed on the team that may not have a technical background. They may have more of an artistic background and or an English background or something like that. and they're just as important as any other member of the team because of the nature of our competitions.
Yes, I think that's very important, especially because.
So we'll move on.
Okay.
Yes. I said move on, but you can go.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that just because a kid doesn't have to have a technical background to be part of the robotics team, because there are so many different avenues that they can take with the robotics team, whether it be creative or technical, or even from a business standpoint for fundraising. So it really includes pretty much any kind of personality.
Absolutely. Forgot about the business standpoint. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So many different skill sets are needed. So even if, you know, your kid says, gosh, I'm kind of thinking about joining a robotics team, but you know, I'm not really interested in building a robot or something like that. There are so many other components that they can fill a role in that will lead to the team's success. So
Absolutely.
something to always consider when you're talking to your kid.
Yeah.
I don't know, Lou, do you want to talk real quick about the pits and the pit crew?
Sure. So usually, I don't know much about the pit crew because Gordon is not really part of the pit crew. But from what I understand is that's where the robot goes to get repaired after matches, because they can take a real beating during some of these very intense challenges. So they'll go get repaired there. And other teams will come by and ask questions about how the robot works. Feel free to jump in, because I'm not really part of the, you know, Gordon takes care of the video, so I'm not really in the pits too much. But I can tell you all about video.
Yeah. And video goes back to the scouting component, right? So that's so super important. But so I guess I can fill in the gaps there for the pit crew. Sorry for throwing that one to you.
That's what, but it's very exciting. It's a very exciting.
The pit crew, similar to. Yes. Oh, it's electric. It's electric, high energy. So it's very similar to if you're a NASCAR fan or a car racing fan. The pits are where the cars go to get, like Luba said, that's where the robots go to get fixed. But there's also a lot that's happening because the pit is not only the home base for the team, but it's also the showcase for the team. So the team will often have videos playing and handouts, and I know I'm talking about all teams, about the outreach that they're doing, the work that they're doing in their community, because that's so important. Judges will be going around actually looking at what the team is doing, and these will be for things like the Chairman's Award. They also want to go out and see the pits and see how things are being demonstrated. There's little awards that are given for things like the Safety Award and the Engineering Award, and all of that information, that all comes from judges going to the pits. You'll also see, you'll also see media. So these are big events, and you'll see not only media from within the First Robotics movement, but you'll also see television stations, newspaper, reporters, things of that nature. You'll see government officials. The Governor General came to the event in Detroit in 2018. The Premier of Ontario has visited. The different members of different state legislatures in the U.S. come out, officials from the U.S. Air Force, people from high technology companies. They're going out into the pits, and they're having conversations with our kids and our team members to ask them about the robot and their experiences in FIRST, and those experiences are just once in a lifetime events at times, and that all takes place in the pits. So Luba, I'll let you pick which one you want to do next.
How about steering committee and the Parents Association? I think that the Parents Association and the steering committee, I don't know if that's what all the teams call it, but that's what we call it. you know, having a steering committee where, you know, trying to organize all of the events and what's going to be happening from the parents' aspect, from the parents' side, to support the student teams. It's an important committee to have. It comprises of parents, of mentors, that gives guidance to the team.
Parents and mentors,
parents
not
and
the parents
mentors.
of mentors.
Right.
I can't. Otherwise, you'd have to think, oh, we do see some parents of mentors from time to time. That happens too.
So we would organize fundraising events, get things set up for the team. So that's where the basic ideas would start for things like the scrap metal drive that we did, or the closed fundraising, or the, I think it was a closed fundraising drive that we did.
Yeah, it was a clothing donation for
clothing
local
donation, that's
shelters
right.
and
That's right.
those in need. Yeah, yeah.
So we would pull all of that stuff together, work with the students, organizing that, finding who's going to run the event, you know, which parents are going to start to get some of the preliminary information, choosing dates that would make sense around different competitions or around the build season. Having a good size steering committee is important so that we have enough volunteers to help out. Not too big, because sometimes if there's too many people, things get lost in the shuffle. I joined the parents steering committee so that I can help out, because that's what I like to do. And it's a good way of getting information and understanding what's happening.
Yes, there you go. Well, I think, Luba, we are 1 minute over time.
Oh.
So knowing that my stepdaughter's behind the controllers there, she's just going to pull the plug on me. So I don't know if the kids are going to jump in and say, okay, old people, stop talking, or what's going to happen here. But I know that we're coming down to the end of it. Oh, there's Sam. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi, Sam.
Hello. Thank you so much, Jeff and Luba. Having supportive parents on robotics teams is so important.